Hey. So has anybody got any sort of questions to start off with?
I have a million. Yeah, well, it was really weird because like I was seeing a lot of people on TikTok actually talking about shadow work, and because this is all very new to us, we were kind of like, what is that? What, you know? So yeah, we saw your thing on Facebook, like literally as I came off TikTok, that came up, and I was like, wow, that's meant to be. So yeah, what is it? How do I do it?
It's a good question to start off with, isn't it? Because I think we all, hi Sydney, and Sue just joined. We probably all got slightly different definitions of shadow work and how we would work through shadow works, because we're all different types of therapists and readers. So that's a really good one to start off on. So Minty, what's shadow work? I'm just going to be a really lazy host today. I'm just going to be host and question person.
Perfect. Go for it. That's cool. For me personally, whether you call it shadow work, personally I call it healing, and it's healing old energies as well as new energies as well. Shadow work is about working and looking on yourself and working on what you feel that you might need to change for the better, in all fairness. Sometimes when we go through quite traumatic experiences or difficult times, we get through those difficult times, but we never really actually truly learn to process them or work through them. And we just put them in a box and we lock it away and go, you know what, I'm going to bury it deep down and I'm going to ignore it. And sadly, when we do that, every now and again, it rears its bloody ugly head up, and it can bring on things like depression or just feeling really crap, really miserable, just really low down. When you're doing like shadow work, or as I call it, healing, what you're doing is it's like you're only taking a little bit out at a time and learning to work with it, trying to understand the energy from it, trying to understand the process that was going on. And some of the hardest things to do is trying to see what was going on from someone else's point of view. So you're sort of looking in on yourself, seeing how it affected you that way, and seeing. They always say that you should talk to your inner self like you're talking to your child, because inside every one of us there is still a child. And certainly as you get older, it's like, I'm sure I look in the mirror and think, I'm sure I was 20 about 20 years ago. What the bloody hell happened? Because I still feel 20. But it's, again, you've got to talk to that child. You wouldn't go to a child and beat it down. And it's about nurturing. It's about self-love and self-healing. And in some respects, by talking to your inner self like a child, you're breaking it down into the simplest forms. And then you'll find that your inner self or your higher self will start giving you an answer onto how to deal with this process, because at the end of the day, it's about nurturing and caring and finding that love within inside. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people in your life that you don't want to forgive, and there are people in your life you don't want to forget either. You know, you don't want to do that forgive and forget kind of thing. And that's perfectly fine, because we are human and we're allowed to do that. And again, part of the healing process is recognizing, when is there a time to maybe try and, is there a forgiveness that you can give? Or is it just an acceptance, but actually putting it to rest properly then, so to speak, and being able to draw that proper line in the sand, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah,
for me, when I'm working on myself, as an example, meditation has always been a huge help for me, because I go and connect with my guides, and I will actually, it's like, excuse my cat. He's just going to be a pain in the back. But no, there's times where I've actually had two of my main guides. One is my granddad and one is my twin sister. And this is before my gran passed, so my gran was still around as well, who taught me a lot of what I do. But I would go into a meditative state, and it would be like they would take me into like a little room, and they would literally just sit there and they would allow me to talk and express everything. And I think that's the other thing as well. It's allowing yourself to express and feel all of those emotions as well, and recognizing that actually the hurt and pain that was caused to you at that time it's like you sort of looking on yourself and go, well, actually, it's not hurting now. So why am I holding on to that? How can I let go of this? How can I release this? With a lot of my meditations, I normally get people to give any anxiety, worry, or stress to the earth, because the earth is a big enough body to deal with all that stress and negativity. But the beautiful thing is with the earth, it's going to turn it into something beautiful. So it'll use it as like food. So it will turn it into a tree, it will turn it into a plant or an animal or something like that. It will feed the earth, but it's turning it into that positive way. In all fairness, like as we give out carbon dioxide, if I've got this the right way round, which I'm hoping I have, the plants are then giving us carbon monoxide.
No, they give us oxygen.
They give us oxygen. All right, they're giving us
carbon monoxide. That would probably kill us.
Right, they're giving us the non-poisonous stuff. Look, I got half of it right. I listened to half my science lesson.
You should have gone with your first instinct.
I should have gone with my first instinct. But look, it's all good. We're not dying. We're not getting poisoned. It's great.
Lindsay, do you think why do you think it's important to be in a meditative state? Is that because when you're in a meditative state, you're in kind of more heart-centered, so you're able to be in more non-judgment rather than judging things as right or wrong, good, bad?
I think it is probably actually about being in a heartfelt state. It is trying to find that heartfelt state, or that, as I call it, like a pure state where it's like you are non-judgmental and you're just accepting and feeling. It's that
you're bringing the observer in rather than the part of you that is wounded.
Yeah, you're having to be the outside person looking in on your. The easiest way to try and do that is through like meditation, in all fairness. And also it's like, I mean, I do a lot of talking to myself, in all fairness, like talking in my own head. And again, that
it's probably because if you talked out loud, Mandy would correct you.
Yeah, she would.
Oh my God.
No, you don't have to go. It's all good. No, but again, it's that self-nurturing, self-love, it's that self-talking to yourself, but it helps you clear things in your mind. So it's like if certainly in my last job when I was working in the warehouse, it'd be like I'll be running through like day to day. But what you're doing is it's allowing you to put it into a focus or a thought process that you can deal with and cope with and work with. And it's the same kind of trick, really, is what you're doing to your inner self. It's expressing and feeling those feelings and nurturing to yourself, but it is being in a heartfelt state. But also at the time when you're talking to your guides or your loved ones who have passed, you're in a safe environment. And I think that's the other important thing as well. When you're working on deep emotional healing or shadow work, it's about putting yourself in that safe environment, knowing that wherever you're putting yourself, you're not going to get hurt. You're not going to get that hurt. Yes, you can experience or you can see what that pain is causing you, but it's not hurting you now, because that's the important thing to remember, is that it's about you not hurting now. It's about you experiencing it or acknowledging it or seeing it, but then allowing it to go and allowing it to release. And people will release it in different ways. I normally put it into like a little ball, and I'll normally set fire to it, and then I'll give it to the earth that way. So in my sense, it's like I'm actually just burning this negative energy away so that it can't come back.
But do you think it's important to actually feel that emotion? Otherwise, you're kind of just stuffing it down and suppressing it, aren't you? So you need to feel it to release it, don't you?
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. You've got to feel it first, and then you can put it in a ball, then burn it, throw it away.
But maybe not sort of get too much into the kind of judgmental side of it, and so I maybe identify the emotion as grief or abandonment, or but not get lost in the story of it that might make you feel a victim, but honor the emotion.
That's why you look at it on an outside point of view, so that you're not you can acknowledge that energy, you can acknowledge what it was, but you're not taking it back on board again. You're looking at it as like, imagine you're on one side of a mirror and your other self is on the other side of a window, so to speak. So you're only looking in on yourself, if you see what I mean, so that you're then not taking that on. But what you're able to do is, because you're looking in on yourself and seeing this energy, that then gives yourself, so yourself gives yourself energy to then get rid of that negative energy. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So I suppose what you're saying is you're looking at it from like maybe the adult point of view. The more,
yeah, it's the adult talking to the child, or the adult talking to. It might be something that's only happened 3 years ago, but it would be your present self talking to yourself from 3 years ago. If it was something sooner, or it could be your present self talking to a child if it was something that was happening when you were a child, or whatever point, whatever you're doing is your present self is going back in time to talk to yourself then. And the easiest way for me to do that is through a meditative state.
Do you write down your experiences afterwards?
Yeah, that helps as well. A lot of people, when they come to me for readings and stuff, if they feel that they can't talk or they can't express it, write it down on paper. Just clear. Always say to people, clear your mind. Just allow your thought, clear your mind as much as you can, and then just write and write and write and write and write. And write until you feel like you want to stop. Then I always say to people, read back through what you've written.
Yeah.
Because there will be things in that writing that you will recognize. And if you're comfortable to burn that paper at that time, it's again a physical. So you're turning an emotional release into something physical to get rid of. So then it feels like a physical release. For some people, they need that physical to be able to release. So one of the things I say to people is read it through, and then you can burn it, and actually burn it, because it gives it that. It gives it that substance. It's like bringing it into reality, or it's bringing it into a much more conscious space that you can then, it's like you can physically destroy it so that you know that you're not carrying that energy on with you. And I find that helps a lot of people as well.
It's kind of transmutation, isn't it, really? So because energy can't be destroyed, it just changes form. So you're just changing the energy.
You're changing the form.
Yeah, and then releasing it back to the universe.
That's it.
Cool. Alison, do you do a lot of shadow work with your clients, and how do you go about doing it with people?
I walk with shadow, so I've come to find all the things Minty said, and for some, and for me in particular, what really resonates and works for me is befriending my shadows and treating them as an entity. You probably hear me drop the word egregore a lot. That is the collective energy that's created. So there's like a booze egregore, there's a smoking egregore, there's a depression egregore, and really treating that and inviting that entity to come in and to converse and speak with. I also bring up the inner child because there's so much soul retrieval. We leave our little pieces of ourselves everywhere when trauma happens, and especially when it's so traumatic that we don't even, like, our brain just blacks it out. So going back in those meditative spaces really allows, that's where, for me, the energy work is really deep release, because you can experience the energy and that's stuck and let it flow without necessarily having to relive the trauma. So there's no need to do that, for everyone. Sometimes, depending on what we're contracted to do, we want to experience that again. But for me, I find treating it as an egregore, as an outside friend, we're able to friend it and see, and through compassion, and say, okay, why did this happen? Or, what happened to this? If it was someone who harmed you, what was happening with them, to be able to step into their shoes and see, what was going on in their life, to kind of, what is a lesson that's learned from here. And most of the time I find the lesson is finding the divine spark within us, that we love ourselves despite what has happened, because we want to remember what it's like to love ourselves unconditionally. And by using the egregore stance, it allows us to release it. Say, I release you, I release you to the divine love and source, or, I'm letting you go. Just as Minty said, processing all of those feelings and then, transmuting into something else. And I like to see them as like a beautiful entity that's getting lighter, that I'm giving it love by releasing it, and it's receiving that love, because as it's played this role for me to learn love. And that's what I work with my clients pretty often about. There's a lot of, that's definitely true with the soul language. That's where that really comes in, because sometimes there just aren't words in the English language to really convey the pain or the heartache or the disappointment. They just don't exist. Like the English language doesn't have the frequency for those emotions. So that allows it to, and it's really just coming down and seeing how things are, from all the perspectives, as Minty said too, from like an adult to a child. We have that parent-child attachment, we all want to feel safe and loved and secure. So by going through into that meditative state and allowing to befriend the shadow or sit with our guides or any of that, and really be able to work through those stagnant energy and emotion to allow that to flow. And just like Minty, I give it out to source, and I say, I return you to source, the divine. I give it to guide at compost to make a beautiful purple butterfly. Sometimes I even just really have my clients and myself too, is really just kind of take it in my lower and upper heart chakras and spin it in like an infinity and release it that way too.
Lovely.
Just a quick one. Natalie's trying to come in, I think, if you can allow her in.
Clicked on something that's admittable.
There's one now.
And we've got a cat at the door.
Of course. Cats.
Ours has
I'm
just gone
trying
out.
to come in the window right now.
I can't believe, look, there's just cats everywhere today. Oh.
Yeah, look
They
at
love the
this.
energy.
What?
They love the energy.
Do you see this one? Just
So
sitting at the window waiting.
I like it with the back. Brilliant. Has anyone got any questions at all that they'd like to
They
ask?
should just bring. I would like to, Leon. Would you like to talk? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Hello.
So, hi. Would you like to kind of come in the conversation about shadow work? Because you kind of specialise in it, don't you? And trauma piece and things like that. And are you are you happy to join?
Yeah,
in?
sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for anybody who doesn't know Leon, I work with Leon with past life regression workshops and things. And yeah, so you're really amazing at working with shadow stuff and people's wounds and trauma. So
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's lots of different words are used for this kind of work, so it can get quite confusing because somebody might be working in the same way but call it by different names. So sometimes it takes when someone's referring to this sort of stuff, sometimes it takes a while to work out what they're actually talking about and whether it's the same. So I don't really call it shadow work myself. I suppose but it is very similar to what you've been discussing, a lot of the work I do. So I use hypnosis because I'm mainly a regression therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So I guide someone into hypnosis either through progressive relaxation or getting them to focus on the issue. So if it's a physical pain or an emotional pain, that then will bridge them to the initial event of the trauma. So then we're able to work through the trauma, and sometimes there needs to be a cathartic release to release so the way I would word it is I see it as an energy, trapped energy. So like trauma is trauma is an energy in itself, and if when we're traumatized we don't have the opportunity or we're not able to process that energy, then that energy is trapped within us in a sense. So we might be traumatized when we're 5, but when we're 55 still things trigger that trauma, that emotion, and when that happens we are overwhelmed by the emotion and feeling the emotion as if the trauma is happening all over again. So the way I work is about reconnecting with that energy and working out what it is we need to do to release that energy. So it's very, very similar to what you guys are talking about. And I suppose depending on the client that I'm working with will depend on how I would work with that particular energy, because everyone's different. Some people are very spiritual and some people aren't very spiritual, but the process is still very similar. but how you word it and how you describe things and guide them through the process would change. Yeah.
When you're dealing, sorry.
No, go ahead, Lee.
When you're dealing with like multiple trauma in somebody, where would you start?
Well,
would you start with sort of like the most recent, or would you go all the way back to like the first kind of trauma?
Well, the way I work is I would work within the emotional field of that person. So someone might say, I've been traumatized, this and this has happened, I've got PTSD or complex PTSD, and they may have self-diagnosed or whatever. I don't then go, right, I'll guide you back to that year 1985 and we go through it, because we might end up somewhere where that trauma has been processed, but if someone's having anxiety attacks every time they go to the supermarket or when they're with people, then that is the connecting point. That's the energy that I want to focus in on. Okay, so then we go back and we track back to the source of that, and we will go. So the most prominent issue that someone is dealing with, would be the first point of working with them, if you see what I mean.
I do. Yeah.
So that might be connecting to one singular event, or it might be several events that it's connecting to, but we don't really know.
Mm-hmm. We get into the peeling the onion thing there, don't we? Because we've all got, multiple layers, and then of course we're dealing with maybe our own trauma and hurts, but then we're also dealing with social programming, religious programming, and taking on our parents' issues and all of these things, and so it's not a kind of a one-stop shadow shop, is it? And it can take many years, can't it, to work through all these things. I'm just wondering, sort of listening, because we've just been talking about things that have happened to us that are our own traumas, but what about sort of shadow work, as in accepting the parts of ourselves that we're not proud of, or we think are too bitchy or too judgmental, or when we have those kind of like horrible or negative thoughts about either other people or ourselves, is that a different type of shadow work, or does it all really stem from trauma in some way, from our own kind of trauma? Thoughts?
I don't think it all stems from trauma, because I think also, it's like you were saying earlier, we are kind of programmed from day zero, really, by how our parents brought us up and things like that. So if you have got, like, say, negative thoughts or these judgmental thoughts, that might not be caused by trauma. That might be caused by views of you being brought up by parents or loved ones or friends or social media or
Natalie's in.
I can see Natalie's in. That's cool. By everything that's going on around you. So it's not always necessarily dealing with trauma, but it's also remembering to recognise that. For me, myself personally, it was like for a long time. It was remembering that I'm still human. No one's perfect. No one's a bloody angel at the end of the day, so to speak.
I am.
But and it's also finding that acceptance that we are sometimes the way we are. That doesn't mean that we can't change our views. It doesn't mean we can't change how we view ourselves or how we view others. But you go back to, where did I learn that from? At the end of the day, we're all learning all the time. And certainly between the ages of 0 and 7, I always say, well, they're the most informative years, because that's where we're doing the most of our learning. That's where we're getting bombarded with tons of information. But we're still at that point probably in our lives where we're not able to make our own choices and judgments. But it's not until later on that you go, well, actually, the way you're thinking about that, I don't agree with that and I don't like that. So you then have to sometimes just go back and unpeel that, or unwire it, as I call it. It's like deleting a file, isn't it? You've got to make sure that you kind of eradicate that, so that you can bring your own thought processing and then bring your own personality forward on that one.
Mm-hmm. So then I suppose going into meditation and and going into that heart center means that we're able to more discern what feels right for us. So we may have been brought up to believe that, you know, foreigners are taking our jobs, or, you know, it's not right to be gay, or all that sort of thing. But actually, it's kind of, if we go into the heart center, then we're more accepting of everybody. And so we start to get that discernment, don't we, going out of the mental conscious programs that we've picked up from society, religion, other people's opinions, and going into the heart center. Then it's more about what feels right to me. You know, that doesn't actually feel right that person is treated like that, or that person is excluded or whatever. And so I think it is really important, isn't it, to get back into that sort of that meditative heart-centered state. It's just, when you were saying about you know, that we're not angels and we're not perfect, I think this is one of the traps that the spiritual community has been falling into, is trying to be all love and light, and, you know, frown upon anything that is kind of, you know, not the most highest, you know, frequency vibe and all that kind of thing. And so I'd really like, Alison, what do you think about the difference between kind of spiritually bypassing and actually just working on yourself and healing yourself so much that your vibration, your energy rises, so that you are actually more at peace and joyful? Because I see some of the people in the spiritual community that are still very much in their shadow and pain and healing, then sort of like shaming people who they're saying, oh, they're all just love and light and they're spiritually bypassing. But actually, some people are joyful and light because they've actually done their work and they've done their healing. So now they are at a higher vibration. But also, you've got the other end of the scale, where there are some people that are so using spirituality to go so out there because they don't want to deal with being in the body and on earth and in 3D reality, that it's almost like using drugs or alcohol as escapism, and that's not great either. So there's a lot of things going on, I think, with this, that I find it interesting, and a lot of the spiritual community have been kind of fighting each other around it. And yeah, have you got any kind of thoughts on that?
Oh, I have thoughts for days. But, you know, before we get here, right, we put together these beautiful storylines so we can learn lessons, you know, and we all come together and we love each other so much that we agree to play these roles with each other so we can learn from each other. Sometimes we study our own spiritual growth. So, you know, one agrees to love, you know, will be a certain way to show, to be able to stand in the divine truth, or, you know, to work on a lesson that, you know, has been a couple of lives or maybe more, you know, still trying to go that, or, you know, we come here to experience different things, you know. So it's so interesting that you brought this up, because this is actually something that I'm personally working with right now between some folks in the spiritual realm, you know, and really seeing this at firsthand. A lot of people come into the spiritual world because they're so hurt and filled with grief. And when we connect with our divine self or a guide, there's just so much love there. And we stop, some of us, and, you know, we stop listening to ourselves and just kind of listen to what's told to us. So we come across these other people, other entities, other guides playing roles that aren't necessarily in our best interest. But we're so starved for that love and that security that we're willing to listen to that. And then what ends up happening is that it's not that we're necessarily, I think bypassing, it's just that the love is there that we've been longing for so long, and something comes in, it fills it. Well, who could it be? I mean, it's so interesting to me about that, you know, and it kind of throws down to like the all, you know, the old school teachings of, you know, when you love yourself, you love everyone else. You know, you're just a different version of me, and that kind of thing. People have a really hard time, you know, and it's in our programming too, to fear what we don't know, you know, that's different from us. So there's all these like beautiful things that we've put into play in order to ensure that we have these experiences and learn these lessons, you know, and it's a really matter of how, you know, we go through and present them. But it does happen quite a lot. And, you know, I've come to find I spend most of my time showing the other side of the coin to another person. And I think that for a lot of us in the spiritual community is about coming together and, you know, and about unity. In order to do that, we've been polarized for so long, and now it's like glamored in our world everywhere. You know, everywhere it's polarity. You know, so here we are trying to come back to center. You know, and there's a fight about that sometimes. You know, and everyone has a different way of solving that. I have some spiritual friends who will just go ahead, you know, and they'll do their like whole like psychic attack and protection and all that stuff. And, you know, they're really into that. And, you know, some spiritual workers they just are so starved for love that, and they need it. It's like, that's where the egregore steps in. It's an addiction, you know, that they're willing to tap into other people's energy and siphon that off and, you know, put cords in and stick through lives and all of that, you know, and really just for that need, you know, we all want to learn and remember what that is to be loved. You know, it's when we experience it all the time, you know, we forget. So we come here to remember that experience. So it does allow for quite an interesting adventure. But there's just so much grief and hurt that's been just like not addressed. And, you know, I was having a discussion with someone the other day, and, you know, and I said, you know, maybe it's time for you to ask for healing. And their response is, well, I don't need any more mentorship or teachers. I have all of my titles and my masters. And I was like, that's true. You do have all of these things, but you still have grief and sorrow within yourself. You're still hurting, you know, and as it's presented, it's, you know, they come right out the gate because they see a perception of who they want to be from another spiritual worker, and not really even have, their grief is so deep and so strong, they just react to it, and they've got that egregore clicked right in there, feeding right off of that, right? Saying, oh, that person is fake, or oh, that, you know, oh, that, and then here's this whole other entity, this whole other shadow or person playing a role to show, you know, to show that perception in order to see the reaction to it, you know. So then it gives us an opportunity to come together and find another person and say, well, maybe we should look at it like this, or, you know. And it really is about, you know, I always tell people, you know, we spend so much time looking for what's going wrong, right? Because that's how our brain is. We come in. What if we just spend all of our time looking at what's going right in every moment? And, you know, my teacher, she did this beautiful TED talk. And that's kind of her jam, the joy potential, right? It's like, if you look for joy, it's going to keep happening. You know, we're just retraining ourselves, reprogramming ourselves. And it's a matter of us being able to stand with each other. And it's so hard to see our fellow spiritual workers in pain. And it's hard, you know, and at the same time, there are others who are really here to learn boundaries because they've given too much. I can't even tell you. I like to get like a variety of readings from everywhere all the time because I want to see what people are picking up. I want to know, because everyone's going to pick up something different, and something's always hiding from me because I made a really good story for myself. You know, I made a really challenging adventure. Like the things that I am putting myself through and that I've done before, I'm like, why would I do that? Like, why would I write this storyline? You know, what's the point? You know, and it's all about, you know, for me, it's all about coming back to love and unity and, you know, and the things that I've come here to do is to truly rebel against the norm in every sense. So when people start to fight, I want to get in and figure out how to find the common ground. You know, when I'm dismissed by someone who says they're smarter and they have titles, well, I'm just going to go ahead and work around you and heal, like, and that's just how it's going to be. And that's my, you know, for me, my story, the things that I've come here to work on in the moment of now is, you know, upping my faith percentage, you know, upping my confidence, upping my self-assurance, you know, my success. These are things that I came here to do. I'm also have a crazy obsession with plants and how human cells work. So I'm like, oh, well, botany and, you know, and human cells, we could heal through plants and sound. And, you know, so it all goes into that storyline, you know, and that's really about going within. So it's like when I look at others who are having these issues, it just makes so much sense because we all share so much grief, you know, and so much trauma. And some of us are in a place where we can coax them out, you know, and some of us are here just to show us, like, you know, the universe going, are you sure? Are you sure? I'm going to keep throwing things at you. Like, you know, and how do I react? And it's so interesting because, you know, I feel that initial reaction every time to pull away, to close up, to block. And, you know, and I see everyone else doing that. And I'm just like, nope, I'm supposed to stay here and listen and be open to receive the information. And that's not the case for everyone. We all have a different role to play. But I do see that so much in the spiritual, you know, because we're already fighting for something that's basically been, the propaganda has been so good for the past however 100,000 years, you know, so long. And then like you throw like, you know, getting burned and hanged and all that stuff in there, and the dogma of what is, and then as coming in for birth and you're receiving this information, we really are stepping out of the box already. So then it doesn't surprise me that we're kind of attacking each other to make sure that we're all safe in our own spaces, when in reality we kind of need to like hold hands and be like, well, you do it different and that's okay, and you see it differently and that's okay, and that's why we all work together. You know, like I'm right now, like I'm obsessed with like soul path readings and astrology, like Sydney Taylor down there in the corner. Like I'm like, I'm sending this person and this person and then person. Like, oh my gosh, and then can we believe them? And then she's like laying all of our things together, and it's just mind blowing to me that it's also written in our stars. You know, we've left ourselves clues everywhere, all over the place, but where are we willing to look? You know, so for me in the spiritual community, when they come at me, because they do, I don't have the same reaction, because I'm like, oh good, what are you going to teach me? But it took me looking for that joy every day to do that, you know, and you know, that's part of the thing. And I know Minty is the same way, and that's why Soul Collective rolls like it does with Mand, and this, you know, and why we're in where we are right now, because we all really celebrate our unique gifts and know that we all need a little piece of the puzzle, and we can all help direct traffic, you know. Be the cruise director.
And it's supporting each other as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah,
that's the key. That's the secret.
Yes, absolutely. But it really is like, and it's amping up too, because we're here now with the polarity, right? We're starting to slowly come back together, and the earth, like on top of that, the earth's shooting off whatever she needs to get rid of. And so like for everyone, and so for someone who's not spiritual, like they're getting massive headaches and they're sad and depressed and they don't know what's happening. You know, and the spiritual people are even more so, because they're so sensitive and they, you know, they forget, you know, we're all connected, right? So it's like this whole thing, and we've been taught for so long to be separate, and that we're separate, that, you know, we're really working towards like, and the spiritual community is kind of like in charge of like bringing everybody back together. And we're also like terrified of that too, because we've been basically, you know, tortured forever and ever and ever. And yet we keep coming back and be like, all right, this time it's going to work. Like this time people are going to listen or come together, you know, and that's why we all do our work, you know, the past life regression therapy and, you know, sound therapy. And we all do these beautiful little things because we're these beautiful, multifaceted creatures, you know, to experience like this beautiful life that we've written down for ourselves and got a bunch of others to agree to, being like, yeah, you totally want to do this. And they're like, I don't actually want to beat you. I think, no, I don't want to do it, but I'll learn this. And then, you know, it's a banter back. Okay. And then we come here and we're like, why are you beating me? Like, this is horrible. Like, why would you do that? You know? And then, you know, but because of that, like all of a sudden our, you know, clairaudience comes to light, and we're able to do something we weren't if we weren't pushed, you know. But yeah, that's like my really long roundabout. Like, yeah, we got some work to do together, but we got to stand together and do it, you know. And I think that's why it's so great that you are doing what you're doing with these soul chats, and how you're interviewing all these different people too, because you're putting that out there, that being different is okay.
Yeah, I want to pick up on something you said about the competition aspect of it, actually, because I think that is a lot of that's really deep in a lot of people. That's a lot of shadows that we're carrying, is that because we've been taught and programmed that there isn't enough to go around, that there is lack, you know, that we've got to fight for resources, whether that's money or clients,
only the fittest survive.
And really the more I understand about the quantum universes, the more I realize that's complete bollocks, you know. And it's and we co-create with the quantum field and with the universe. We don't, there's not this finite amount of things to go round, so we don't have to fight over clients, we don't have to fight over jobs and resources and finances and housing and all that kind of thing, but just that misunderstanding creates so much trauma and so many wounds in people, and of course that's for me that's part of the biggest shadow out there, is that we're making other people wrong, we're judging other people, we're telling people they should do this, that and the other, because we're so scared of not having enough. On a deep level, we're scared of not having enough for ourselves, to be happy and fulfilled. So,
which is working on our ego.
Yes, yeah, basically. Well, again, it's what I call the human ego versus the heart and the divine ego. Because when you go into that heart center, you understand that you can create, because it's the heart that co-creates. It's that energy that comes from the heart center that co-creates. So. Right. And that's why some people say, "Oh, the law of attraction doesn't work." Well, because you're using your mind. You're just positive thinking, and it's about positive feeling. And
it's not just that, though. It's about combining our mind and our heart into one.
But you're using it the right way, isn't it?
It's not just our gut too. Let's not even forget about that queen that's hanging out in the middle.
Just as important, if not
more.
So.
And it's us for all. And what does Jared say all the time? He talks about the 3 parts of the tree. Oh, I wish he was here right now, because he makes a really great. He says all the words of the 3 parts of the tree, and they're like your mind, your heart, and your gut, basically, and really working that together. I'm gonna make him record it and say it so I can just play it, because it's so beautiful. But basically, it's like here we come to. We're not. It's like still retains that game of illusion of separation, right? So it's not just about I do agree, living heart forward is like the way to roll, but it's also like teaching our processor to look for that and to be like, this is normal, this is normal, this is normal. And then it's also at the end of the day our gut, where we store all of our fear, all of everything that happens, to really being like, to even being open to that. And then then we fall into the whole other thing about, well, what happens, what we could talk about, the original shadow of our like solar plexus being separated, as part of our DNA modification in the beginning. So we would be so busy doing all of this at each other that we wouldn't ascend past that. So what happens when we bring that broken piece and combine that solar plexus bioenergy shadow back together, right? So it's like there's so many things to it. That's just how I roll. But like I it's like, to me, it's not, because the heart doesn't obey the rules in this world. And I've found if I'm just only listening to my heart, I tend to really take the long, hard, difficult way, I get there and it's great and beautiful, but I ignore all the other signals from my 2 other places.
I would say listen more to your gut than anything else first. The gut is really, whenever you feel something, it's like meeting someone from the first time, or you've got, as we call it, that gut instinct. That's really where we're receiving our messages first of all, is through our solar plexus. It's not through our minds, it's not through our heart, it's through our solar plexus.
Do you think that's the front gate then, Minty? That's the
main portal. Yeah. That's why a lot of people have a lot of issues with their chakra in the solar plexus area, because it gets clogged up with so much day to day. It's where we're reading most people from. It's like, when you get that instant recognition with someone, or you get that good feeling, you get your butterflies in your stomach. When you get that gut-wrenching feeling that something's wrong, it's in your stomach. It's through your solar plexus. So whereas we're always relying on our heads and our hearts, we kind of neglect the main portal of where we get our information from, which is through our stomach and our gut. And it's about putting more emphasis and looking after and listening more to that first. Head is always kind of last, in all fairness, in my opinion. It's listen to your gut. Does it resonate with your heart or doesn't it? Because that will have a little battle. And then if those 2 are resonating, well, does this resonate with my mind? Does this resonate with what I'm actually truly thinking? And it's about rewiring it. So it's working from our way up. And the way you connect with spirit is working from the ground up. So to work with thought processes, because it's energy, our thoughts are our energy at the end of the day. You're working with energy, so work from the energy upwards and filter through that way. Your gut will never let you down. Your head and your heart will.
I think what you're saying though is quite interesting, because I think it's also important that you have that balance between the head and the heart, as well as the gut, as you call it, because if you're going on your gut and you've got a wounded heart, then your heart will take over and you won't be able to follow that. Or if you have limiting beliefs, like we were talking about, that come from programming, then that will get in the way as well. So it's like the whole thing needs to be in balance to really.
It does need to be. It needs to be cleansed.
You could sort of go on your gut feeling, but that could be being also influenced by the fact you've got a wounded heart, or you've got limiting beliefs as well, you know.
I suppose, because you tend to feel fear in the gut as well, don't you?
You feel fear in the gut.
So if you're a very fearful person, you've got a lot of fear going on, then maybe it'd be hard to distinguish what that is from the. I suppose I'm kind of just seeing these as three brains now. You've got your gut brain, your heart brain, and your mind brain, and it's kind
And also, it's like you're saying about your gut feeling with your heart, if you've got a heavy heart, but then also if your mind and your heavy heart, that can be out of sync and have the same effect as the other way as well. So you're right, it's about trying to keep it aligned, which isn't always the easiest, because we are human and we make it difficult for ourselves.
But I think that this is why self-care and processing is so important, isn't it? Whether it's taking that quarter of an hour to sit in the garden, or go for a walk, or going and have a bath, or what. And of course, we're so, especially now with that, with electronics and our phones and everything, we're so distracted consciously, and we just do not give ourselves that quiet time to process all this information through all of the chakras and all of the heart and the mind and the gut. So no wonder so many people are completely out of balance and completely spinning.
We get frazzled at all angles.
I suppose that's when the shadow work will come in, when you have that feeling, but you have to sort of like sit back and think, well, is that my heart, is that my gut, and really reflect on where that feeling is coming from. And then you're able to trust your actual gut feeling if it's not something else that's overruling that.
Yeah, you're right, because a lot of the time it's down to having the awareness. If you don't have an awareness, then you're just sort of reacting to situations because of, say, your wounded heart is causing you to behave in a certain way. But when you have an awareness, you can go, do you know what? I think it's that wound that I'm carrying. Do you know, I need to work on this area here. I'm feeling this. And so that awareness can be really powerful. So having the awareness of like the chakras or the head, heart and gut thing is, you can sort of start to sort of balance it. And realize that if it's not in balance, that there's something needs to be done.
I had something recently that really made sense to me, and that was that if you feel that something isn't right, or you need to think on that thing, what you should do is give yourself 72 hours to really think and process that. And if it matters after 72 hours, then go forward. If it doesn't matter, then release it and let it go. And I suppose that's the same with when you're thinking, you're not sure, maybe it's a person that's come into your life and you're like, am I really thinking this about this because they remind me of from somebody in my past? So 72 hours on thinking and reflecting on that could be sort of like your
hands up everybody that wishes there was an email recall service. How many times have you sent that email and the next day you've got up and go, oh my god, I can't believe I sent that email.
Really good point you bring up, Zoe, because if you have stuff that you haven't worked on, or stuff that you're not realizing you haven't worked on, so certain situations can trigger a threat response within you. So it brings up the energy, that emotion of something from the past that you don't yet understand, then your decision will be swayed by that. You might not actually go and do this job interview that would be great for you because of your threat responses meant, oh no, they won't believe in me and I'm not good enough, and because of previous experiences. So it's quite good to actually be able to step back and let things calm down to then go, right, is this really important? Is this really dangerous? Is this going to work out for me in the right way?
Leon, can you speak a little bit about shame and how we kind of because we've really got to love the bits of us that we don't like, haven't we?
Yeah, shame's a great example of how energy is passed. So, and it's a really common one as well. So in my work, shame comes up quite a lot with my clients. And when we work with the shame and we get to the bottom of the shame, generally that shame has been handed to them by a caregiver or a teacher or friends in the schoolyard, so shame is like this energy that someone has and they pass it on to people. So a lot of the time the shame that we have that is being triggered by certain situations is kind of someone else's shame, really. So we're carrying that burden, and this can be an energy that is passed down through the ancestry. So when we can discover this, like Minty was saying about how it's really good that when you have this energy that you put it down on paper to make it a physical thing so that you can work with it. I use color quite a lot. So with shame, when this shame's been discovered, I had the client to name what color it is first impressions. So all of a sudden this energy of shame is tangible. So all of a sudden we can work with this color, so we can see the actual energy. And then we can give the energy back to the person that it belongs to, because it's not ours to carry any longer. So it's really good with, if you can create an image with the actual energy itself, or bring it into physicality, like Minty was saying, like writing it down, or whether you have a stone that you can project it into and then dispose of it. It's a way of letting go and shedding that energy.
So what's the difference between kind of needing to release something or give something back to others that wasn't ours? What's the difference between that and identifying parts of ourselves that we're not proud of and integrating that in a, to love and accept that part of ourselves rather than trying to make it wrong or bad? Or do you see what I'm saying?
So there's the difference of that we may have energy that is not serving us and we need to get rid of it to actually be free of it. But there's also our lack of, often it's a lack of self-acceptance or lack of self-love. So we have quite strong opinions. So, judgment essentially of others is essentially self-judgment. How we judge people around us, whether it's weight or fashion or cleverness or stupidness or whatever it is, this is how we harshly judge ourselves. And this comes down to our view of the world and how we've sort of programmed or established a view of the world. And this can be from our childhood or experiences from past lives. These limiting beliefs can be not necessarily ever put into words. They're just feelings that we can have. And it's again when we bring the awareness to it and actually put words to it, we can make it tangible and we can start to work with it and start to process it and go, oh, this is a limiting belief that I've taken on. I learned this from my peers at school, and actually I don't really believe this. I don't actually accept, I don't think this is the way I really see the world. I can change this, and change this belief.
Do you think all patterns of behavior that we have that we don't like about ourselves, so maybe I just think that actually I'm a bit too selfish and maybe I don't sort of give to other people as much as I should do or like to. Do you think anything like that really does come down to what we've picked up from other people and it just needs kind of loving and accepting?
Most likely, but there's a funny thing, isn't it? Sort of it's like that. It's a great analogy, when you walk through a forest of trees and some trees are twisted, some trees are very weak and weedy, some trees are very big and jolly. You don't kind of go into the forest and judge the trees, you know, but when we kind of bring this whole awareness into the human realm and we go into the forest of people, we instantly have judgment, you know, we instantly, and maybe there's something about being human that gives about the human ego that has this, gives us this tendency to judge, you know, and judge ourselves. So I don't know if I could answer that clearly, because I think while a lot of the time these are learnt behaviors, I think also it's something about being human that causes us to behave in these ways. And this is something we work through and learn from.
Yeah. I think it's just one of those
things.
Angie, sorry, go on, Sydney.
No, I was just going to say, a lot of what Leanne is talking about does come through the ancestral line. Some of those feelings of shame that we don't even know where they came from. When I look at different charts and stuff, there's a lot of 12th house stuff. That's subconscious stuff that's passed through the ancestral line. Shame, fear, insecurities. So a lot of the things we don't even know why we feel them, particularly with like 12th house activities, because it's in your subconscious. So you can actually be coming into the world carrying the shame and not even knowing that you have it until something happens that triggers that.
And I suppose from that point of view, then we've decided as a soul to come in with that blueprint, with the
work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it's like you choose to come in to work on that ancestral karma. And you know, it's interesting to see when I'm doing readings. I did a reading today, and the lady was only 50 years. She had lots of ancestral karma, but she had cleared so much of it. You could tell by the way she was dealing with all the situations that, and she had a lot of 0 degrees planets, which is a brand new beginning. And one of them was in Neptune, so her spiritual path. So she was shifting the way her spirit was responding to things. So, you know, we don't even know sometimes why we have these kind of things, but they've been passed down. It could have gone back to the grandparents, great-grandparents, you know, and you're just
even
born
go back
with
to
some of
past
these
lives
things.
as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You're bringing that forward with you, because even with your past lives, you're going to still carry those pieces of energy from your previous lives with you into your next one. And everything that we're doing in this life, we'll take forward into our next life as well. So it might be that you might not have actually learned it from this lifetime per se, but might be from about 6 lifetimes ago. You try and go back all that far as well to then try and learn to deal with it and heal from it that way as well.
I suppose this illustrates the you know, how going to different readers and exploring different avenues can be really beneficial, because somebody can go to Sydney and find out from Sydney that actually you have a lot of ancestral line stuff, and it's like, well, how the hell do I find out about that? but then you go to a past life therapist that may be able to help you with that. So
we made it really complicated for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it quite a few times in these soul chats, is that we have all these ingredients, that we've decided to have all these ingredients, and then we see what we bake with it, and kind of whether it works out or not is largely down to us and our free will, and how much you know, effort and work we're prepared to put into our own kind of journey and our own healing. So
we're all giant mixing bowls.
Yeah. So has anybody else got any questions? Belinda, have you got anything that you're kind of particularly struggling with, or you work a lot with people that are passing, aren't you, and have terminal illness and things like that? So
the shadow work was really interesting, because as Leon said, it can be termed as different. So as a soul midwife, which is me working with end of life rather than birth, my job is to ease the passage of that person. So my shadow work is actually dealing with any soul wounds they have. So if we've got somebody, and I specialize in dementia where I'm based, so you can imagine the torment that person's been going through for a long time, mainly. So some people will pass peacefully without a lot of interference. I want to say interference. It's not interference, with help. I use sound therapy at end of life, and that is awesome, and Reiki. But soul wounds, I pick up on purely from intuition, listening. It takes a while, but I get a sense that they're not going to pass until they've come to terms with those soul wounds. And although, of course, they can't verbally tell me what that soul wound is, it's almost, this is going to sound crazy, but it probably won't to you
Not
guys.
to us, no.
They talk to me. I know almost what they're reaching out for, what they need assistance with, and it's explosive at times. When that soul wound or those soul wounds are actually met and healed, and they don't always, and the death isn't as peaceful as it should be, it's like almost like a crack, and it's like something's just gone, it's lifted, and there's a deep peace, and that peace is so profound, and people will come in and have come into that room at that moment. Excuse me, my cat's just decided to join me now.
It's all kitty cats tonight.
It's weird, isn't it? And they will actually, now they're getting used to me being there, and they will actually say, wow, what's just happened? You can actually feel it. So to actually help somebody to heal those soul wounds that's preventing them from passing peacefully is the most humbling and awesome thing I can do for anybody. So that,
cool.
you know, that is my shadow work, I guess.
Where are you based?
I'm based in Redditch,
Okay.
in Stonebridge Nursing Home. It's specialist nursing home for dementia. We have complex mental health cases as well.
Yeah.
But I've been there 10 years, and I've worked as a soul midwife there for 4.5 now. I'm there for support for anybody, to be fair, relatives, staff, which just over the last 12 months, as you can imagine, has been immense. And we've lost quite a few, which was awful. I just felt that I wasn't doing my work properly. I couldn't, and it prevented me from being a soul midwife as I wanted to be. I couldn't prevent their deaths. I couldn't bring them peace very often. They didn't die peacefully, and yeah, that was horrible. That was taken completely out of my hands.
Can I ask you a question? You said that at the point of death where you heal the soul wound, so would that mean that karmically that wound would no longer have to be passed down?
I don't know. You know, I don't really know whether that's just them letting go and coming to peace with either something they didn't like about themselves or something that had happened that they'd never made peace with. I don't know. I haven't got an answer for that one.
Because it almost seems like if they healed it at that point of death, that would kind of cut the cycle. It would seem like, which would be extremely valuable.
That's where Minty needs to come in and start asking questions.
I do actually work when I'm called to work as a psychopomp, which means, and I've done it. It happens without me even being aware that I'm actually acting as a psychopomp. So the first time it actually happened to me was when I was working with a guy in the last stages, and he was, you know, the doctor said that's it, he hasn't got long, and I went into sort of meditation for myself, holding on to him so I could sort of meditate with him and try and feel him almost. And I ended up traveling to this underground, and we met this woman, and I knew it must have been seconds, but it felt like hours. And I came out of this sleep meditation when I realized what it was, and it just knocked my socks off. I couldn't stand. I was wobbly. I felt sick, and I knew that he wasn't going to pass. I crossed over with him as far as I could go, and was told to go. The soul midwives do train as mirror force, some of us. So we use LME and Palo Santo, and if somebody's really struggling, spiking hard. Yeah, and Spike and I was
I just
mentioned in the
find that
Bible.
so fascinating
It is,
what
it
you
is
do, because I have a friend who does
fascinating.
soul midwifery.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never
Mhm.
heard of it at all before, and it's
Yeah.
really interesting. I mean,
Yes.
I'm part of a group. I have a rare cancer called ocular melanoma, and there's a lot of I'm in a group with them, and there's a lot of spiritual people within that group, but this has never come up before, and it'd be quite interesting to sort of go back and speak to them and see if that's something that they would like with their end of life. So that's really interesting.
Yes. Yeah, it does help. When I first took it into the nursing home, because I'd worked there as a care partner for so long beforehand, I was a little bit skeptical and really didn't know how it was going to be received. And it wasn't initially. It was sort of like, we knew you were weird, but you're even weirder now. And all this, what's this mumbo jumbo? And the minute I know the people in the last stages, because they go through the 4 transitional stages, I've got a purple disc. It's a lilac coloured disc, and it's got open palms with a butterfly flying out. But just namaste, and that's basically honouring the person within, honour the sacred space. You will know there's something going on, which is incredible. Have respect. You can pop in to say hello or goodbye or whatever, but this is a sacred space now, and treat it so. So it's lovely. We're growing. We've got 900 now in the UK, and we've got some in Australia, and Europe, America. There's quite a few of us.
I think it's so beautiful. I really like that idea. Yeah.
And everybody deserves that, and it's still so clinical in hospitals and nursing homes.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, my friend who does it actually is working, I don't know if she is now because of COVID, but she was working in a doctor's office.
Brilliant.
Doing it, which really surprised me. That was in Gloucestershire. I can't imagine it happening over here, but
we are really lucky over here. It is catching on.
Belinda, are you drawn to soul language or light language? Do you speak it at all? Or?
I don't, but I was listening earlier and I thought how amazing.
Did you just hear me? I spoke your dialect when you were talking. It's like ancient sand. It's like ancient. Yeah.
Fascinating.
I just love that.
End of life.
Belinda, I just say,
it's like just a bunch of crones like coming out. It's off, like it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
They're saying that they're the reapers, but like that's what you do. You're like preparing them to hand.
Yes.
And it's like contracted. It's way less traumatic when they come in again too, because they're able to complete things. It also helps with the ascension of the earth, they're saying. Yeah. That's your dialect. Yeah.
I just wonder, Belinda, because it's that because that soul language is that, like the sound therapy is bypassing the ego mind and everything, that it may be really helpful in your work if you're drawn to.
Yeah, so I was listening earlier and I just thought that might be something else I can take to end of life and get a connection in a way.
Yeah, because you're bringing the ancient through. And when people, that's what they're saying to me when you're at the end, you're just so open to everything. So because you can already speak to their heart directly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Leon, did you?
Sorry. Yeah. Something I've been dying to say.
But it's just too many women.
Go off subject and start talking about something else really interesting. It'd be lost. But it's interesting hearing what you do, Belinda, because I've for a lot of years I've done a lot of spirit release work and worked with earthbound spirits, and most, really, really commonly when spirits become earthbound, it's because they don't get it. They don't really understand where they're at or what's going on. And it's just, they kind of just lost their way. Yeah. And the work you're doing with your clients is changing that so much. And I think I just wanted to say that to you, because I don't know if you understand about spirit. It's something that
Oh my God! It's just like, can you imagine if everybody passing had their own soul midwife? How many less earthbound spirits there would be causing problems?
Out of the
That'd be
jar.
amazing. Let's manifest that.
Yeah, I want to learn that. That's something that intrigues me. I would love to blend that in. Also, I'm about to have a cat fight in like 2 seconds, just so y'all know. I don't know if you hear going, so I might have to mute myself. But yeah,
Okay.
that's amazing.
Oh, so, well, I'm a Felicity Warner soul midwife. That's our chieftain. Felicity Warner is amazing. She's based in Devon, and she will do this online. If you can't get over to England, it's there for anybody to sign up to. You do your introductory course just so you can get a feeling for it. And I went totally oblivious, didn't know what it was about, and it was just like, I'm home. I'm actually amongst a group of those men and women, and I just thought, they're as bonkers as me. Not bonkers, but then I thought I was a crazy woman. I didn't know there were people that were sort of thought the way I did. So then I went on to my level 1 and didn't take it to the home straight away because I had to do case studies. Well, I was lucky then because I'd worked with people anyway. So I used people that I had sat with previously, and I'd been doing this work without even knowing what I was doing. So now I'm level 2 and I've done my oils, and then I did my Reiki level 1 and 2 and sound therapy and biohealing and sound therapy. And then I'm now doing Indian head massage to bolt that on, and face massage, and yeah, and I absolutely love it. And I intend to take it out there into the world, and well, Redditch anyway, you know, to start with. Let's not get too.
Stephanie should put the link, Felicity Soul Midwife, on the chat if anybody.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. That's great.
It is fascinating.
Multitasking.
What's your friend's name?
Her name is Kathy Birchmore.
Oh yeah. I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's a lovely lady. Yeah.
Oh wow, small world.
I think, yeah, she's had some back problems, so she hasn't been doing it with COVID and everything. But yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. They're lovely
And
people.
I have another friend who's been looking into it too. So we were going to have a conversation with Kathy about it because we're both interested in it.
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah. It's really it's an honor to do the final thing for these people.
Yeah.
Working at the home anyway, I build up a relationship with them because I start working with them way before end of life. As soon as they come in, I start working, getting to know them, and so I know a little bit of their background. I know their families if they have one, because not everybody has visitors.
No.
So yeah, and COVID took a lot away from us all, and it was devastation at the home, sadly. But yeah, we're getting back there now. I'm getting my time again. I can spend one-to-one with these people. So yeah.
It just seems like such a lovely thing to do.
It is lovely, and it's made a difference to the home, to be fair.
I bet.
And a lot of the relatives, we get lovely feedback. It's like, wow, you've got this person that we can actually talk to. And once I'm there, I don't have to run off because I haven't got any other work. That's me, I'm there. Yeah. I'm not a care partner. I don't have to go and do somebody else's personal care. This is me, I'm here. I'm at the end of the phone. I can work nights if you need me. So I'm really flexible. So yeah, so it's good. It's all good.
Great, yeah.
So yeah, join the movement, soul midwives. Hey.
Yeah.
But it has to be Felicity Warner's because she's the one. There are some offshoots, and they're not as good. Obviously, I'm going to say that, but you know, yeah. She's amazing. She's awesome. Yeah. So
Leon. Sorry, I'd just like to ask Leon, really, if how do you find it with your clients that are talking about earthbound spirits and how that can affect people's, issues and personality and the things that they go through with depression and alcoholism and things like that?
Well, yeah, we were talking about the 3 main sort of places when we're talking about shame. There's like the ancestral line, there's the past lives, or there's the childhood aspect, the inner child aspect. But spirit attachment is also another area that can also bring a lot of that energy into someone's life. So
I think when somebody says spirit attachment, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I get this kind of like, you know, the 70s Exorcist film thing, you know, things like that. And it's very scary, isn't it? Our perceptions of spirit attachments is very scary, but actually the reality isn't that. It isn't that.
No, and as I was saying, a lot of the time it's, you know, you could call it possession, really, is the original, but that word has been, it's got so much kind of triggers, so much more stuff hanging on that word, that it's not really a word we use as in spirit release therapy, because a lot of the time the spirits that are trapped, that have become attached to someone, they've lost their way, they've got confused, they don't really realize, because when somebody dies and they're not a spiritual person, they're not dead. You know, it's only the body that dies. So they're like still here. And they're like, well, I'll just carry on then. And because they're in this in-between state, just like in a dream, they're able to recreate scenarios to uphold this dream state they're in, to kind of fool themselves that they're still going about their everyday life. There's just a bit of a weirdness for them. So they kind of keep doing that, and they can become attached to people. So, I mean, to make an example, say an alcoholic person may have an alcoholic spirit attachment because, for several reasons, but the main reason is that spirit attachment is looking to relive and continue experiencing the patterns of behavior. And for the living person who has that attachment, their alcoholism is compounded and exacerbated by the influence of that energy, of that conscious energy that's connected with them.
So if I just don't understand how that happens.
That's where the egregore comes in for me. That's when,
and I don't know what that word means either.
So an egregore is a collective consciousness of the humanity that becomes an entity, and then after a while, it kind of detaches itself from the collective and does its own thing, and then feeds.
I don't understand how it works though. How does it actually? Does it just become part of the consciousness of the person, or
the spirit attachment? So somebody could have there's different ways and different reasons why an attachment happens, but usually it's that it can be the actual living person can't let go of someone that's passed over, so they cling, so there's an attachment from the living person's point of view, and usually that's usually just a fragment of the consciousness. And another way could be that the attachment is attracted to a person because they may have been depressed and killed themselves, and then they might come across somebody else who's also very depressed and has a very similar vibration, and that draws them close. And when somebody is suffering severe mental health or physical health, the natural protection that we would have is a lot lower. So that then allows the bonding, the connection of that spirit. People that get involved in the dark arts and they're playing around with energy, they can also open themselves up to getting attachment. Mediumship can also be a situation. I mean, when I first was training in doing a development circle, I kept getting a little girl and an old lady, really, really detailed. And when I went and and I could never place them, but they were really coming through very, very clearly. And when I did my training, they were both released as spirit attachments, and they came through, and they never came back. So the consciousness that lives on, if it doesn't fully transition and go to the light, it can become attached to the energy of the living and affect. Sometimes they're well-meaning and they want to protect and they want to look after somebody. It still doesn't quite work out because they haven't fully transitioned and gone to the light. So it's not really an ideal situation.
So
how do you determine? I'm sorry.
I was just going to I'm just thinking of people that might be listening to this in the future. They're going, oh my God, I might have loads of spirit attachment. So, I mean, how I mean, that's a very scary concept, especially for people that are just getting on the spiritual path, the spiritual journey. So what would your advice be, Leon, about kind of you know, just making sure that your energy is clean, I suppose, that it's not that you're not distracting.
I mean, if you have a high vibration and you have good boundaries, then it's not something to be worrying about. If you have really poor boundaries, you know, if you have poor boundaries in your everyday physical life, then energetically and spiritually, you're also going to have poor boundaries. So you're going to be open to picking up energies. And when I say picking up energies, spirit consciousness can be on the edge of our energy field. And they can not really affect us that much, but they can like hang around because they're attracted to us. But if we connect with them in a deep way, they can get closer in on an energy field. Then they can have more effect.
Do you say that like people who do abuse drugs and alcohol, they are more susceptible for that bad energy going in?
Yeah.
I've seen it in people where I've seen perfectly happy, normal people be great, and then, you know, once the alcohol is there, they'll hit a certain point and like it's like a completely different person has come in. The face changes and everything, the mood changes, and that's, you know, that's kind of like just. I just thought when you were saying that, I was like, well, yeah, I totally get that, because I've seen that happen in a person where they're just not themselves anymore. Just the way they carry themselves and everything, just it's like a mist goes over and it's just like completely different. So I found that.
How do you actually ascertain if it is an attachment or if that person is just going through a difficult time or something? How would you know?
Yeah, so
if there was an attachment,
the symptoms that some people generally have from spirit attachment aren't can come from other things. I mean, someone might be very low in energy and hearing voices and can't concentrate and is very, very distracted, and their behavior, they're having a lot of big mood swings. Now, all of those things could be attributed to something else that's going on in their life, but it could be coming from a spirit attachment. And I say that because when in hypnosis, we're able to uncover this consciousness and communicate with the consciousness and clear the spirit attachment, all of a sudden that person then feels more energy, they're not having the distraction, they're not hearing the voices, and they feel at peace. Because there's a difference between connecting with spirit from the light, who respect our free will, and connecting with spirit that haven't yet gone to the light, who are very much grounded in the human ego, who might wave their finger and say, oh, you shouldn't do that. You know, they have a very different vibration about them.
So hypnosis would be one method you could determine that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Minty, how do you kind of discern this kind of thing, working with spirit, and how do you discern the messages coming in for your clients and things like that? And do you ever have instances where you're told that a client has actually, you know, got an attachment? Or
I've actually had experiences of doing house clearings and also clearing energy or spirit from people as well who have had this attachment going on as well. To be honest with you, when I'm getting a loved one coming through, if they're coming through of their own free will and they're wanting to pass a message on, that energy is feeling different to if someone's actually bringing that, like, it's heavier is the easiest way I can describe it.
So it's a kind of a different frequency.
It's a different frequency altogether. It's normally, when it's a spiritual attachment, it's not like you say, Leon, it's very earthbound. So it's a lot heavier. It's a lot more, it's like treading through treacle. It's the easiest way I can describe it.
I sort of would say it's like a low vibration.
It is a lower vibration, but it's got weight to it. It's got weight to it as well. When it's a loved one that's coming through and I'm getting a message from a loved one with the readings that I do as a medium, it's lighter, you know. 90% of the time they're at peace, don't get me wrong. I also have loved ones that have come through that are not maybe necessarily looking for forgiveness, but they're wanting to apologize. I've had that recently where loved ones that have passed, they're not looking for the forgiveness, but they're wanting to apologize for how they have treated people. And again, that's another way of healing and clearing as well, and shadow work in its own right. not only for the person that is sat in front of me having the reading, but it's also for the person who's in spirit who might need to turn around and do that apology or express their sorrow for how they were, or acknowledge how they were, so that then they're able to move on into the next into their next stage of where they are themselves as well. So actually, in some respects, that's healing two people at once in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But no, I've worked in the dark as well as the light. I've done a lot. How do I explain it? I'm the bit where I walk in between the light and the dark. I'm in the grey area when I'm working with spirit, and I have for many years worked in the dark side. Star Wars has got a lot to thank for.
I'm going to call you Kylo Ren from now on.
That's fine. But no, it's about acknowledging and working on the darker side as well. As long as you, for me, I was always doing it with compassion and empathy, because a lot of the time when spirits are trapped here, it's because they haven't realized that they've died, or they want maybe not forgiveness, but they want to probably express a heartfelt sorrow or try and change how they were in this life. And sometimes that can leave them stuck here as well. And then it's kind of going in and saying, look, you're going to be able to karmically work on this, but you've got to pass, or you've got to cross over into the light side, so to speak. But the energies are completely different.
I'd like to ask, all of you actually, because this is something that I've struggled with a bit, is that kind of, if we've all got our guides and we've all got our guardian angels and all that sort of thing, then why would anybody still be earthbound? And what happens to your guide? What happens to your angelic guide of of the moment that you pass, if they're not helping you to cross into the light? And is that something to do with our human free will, that we haven't kind of detached from?
There's an important word in your sentence.
Yeah.
And it's called
Sorry?
It's called a guide. They guide you. They can't do it for you. You've got to still do the work. They are guides. They're advisors. They, in my case, normally give me a kick up the arse in the right direction after about 5 years of doing it wrong or something.
So it's us as a soul that's still having that, still exercising our free will, if you like, to stay in the lower vibration or to stay in the earth realm rather than crossing over. So it's not like you suddenly, your angels are off doing something else and forgot and weren't there at the time.
No, they're still working on the spirit side and trying to guide you over. It's just whether you're choosing to listen to them or not. And as a human and a medium, I can honestly say I don't always listen to my guides, and I go on massive long bloody detours. And then they're finally, for Christ's sake, you're finally getting it a lot. I mean, I give my guides a bloody headache. I really do.
They're not the only ones.
No, they're not the only ones. But that's why you have the choice. But no, the important word in your sentence is guide. They can't do it for you. Now, they can be there and they can show themselves and trying to encourage you or welcome you over. But if you're still stuck in that mindset of like, nope, then you're going to be staying here until you're ready to cross yourself. But it's about you doing it yourself, and that's the important lesson here. Whatever we do, you can help anybody in the world, but you can't do it for them.
So when practitioners like Leon or yourself kind of go and do clearings then, or entity removing entities, what are you able to do that their guides and angels aren't?
I'm talking to them from like the living side then, and saying, look,
from the physical realm, because some people get so hooked on the physical realm they can't see anything beyond it. So they're not going to listen to a guide, they're not going to notice a guide. And then if you've got someone who is in the physical realm and you've got that same density of energy that they're working with, they can hear it.
Yeah, so again, you're kind of like, so you're communicating on the same vibrational level, aren't you? So as I said not long ago, you can see down, but you can't see up.
And you're also making them realize that they're not necessarily in the simplest terms, they're not part of the physical world anymore, and that they need to move on.
Get off my land.
That's right. Here, it's my bloody house. Get off. But no, but yeah, it's like man says, because we're in the physical, and they will relate to the physical more than they will to the spiritual side. So they'll listen to the physical side, what's familiar, and then they'll realize, then they get this, it's like a light bulb moment, it's like a penny dropping, and you can feel the energy change, literally like a flick of a light switch, go from, oh shit, and it's like, oh, okay, I think
then
I'm ready.
They can then create their own reality.
Yeah.
Just to start with, they're not willing to create their own reality because they're not ready. They don't know they can do it, and everything changes.
And then the guys then can come forward. They see their guides, or as a lot of the time it's explained that they see this light. Actually, that light is just our guides coming forward from the darkness that they've created for themselves. Again, it's a guided light. So then they're going, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go and explore what's over there then. And then the
analogy that just dropped into my mind was kind of, we listen to our mates, but we wouldn't listen to our parents. So
exactly.
You're talking to them and a kind of as a mate, you know, whereas the guides are kind of like your parent, almost like your parents, like, I'm not listening.
At the end of the day, we're all at the end of the day, we're all children. We're just on different levels of childhood. And how much stubborn are we going to be? And
I suppose the other important factor is being physical beings that we are at this time, is we're not bound by having to worry about free will, like the guides and spirit from the light. So we can override that. We can sort of tell them, realize that you're dead.
Yeah.
So, like, exactly.
Get out of my physical.
And then all the tears and all the drama, and then because a lot of the time I find with like trapped souls or earthbound spirits is you need to do an element of therapy with them. And when we're talking about the shadow side of what we're talking about, shadows, you know, wounds or trauma or whatever that we carry through our life, when we die, we still have all those wounds. And if those wounds can cause us to stay earthbound, that can keep us in a low vibration. So if we're still feeling revengeful or hateful because of the wounds that we've not healed, then we're not going to be able to go to the light because we're focused in a human way, or in an earthbound way, and that stops us from moving on. So there can be it can be necessary to help them process and release that heavy burden in a way that allows them then to go to the light and move on to the light realms.
And also it's like, and the flip side of that is, there are times when I've had people's loved ones come forward and they've actually said to me, I was this evil bugger, I was like, you know, I was abusive, I was like either aggressive towards people or horrible to people. So for like example, I mean, obviously not mentioning names, but I did a reading the other day, had a grandmother come through, and straight away she was like, I was the sternest grandmother you could possibly meet. I couldn't show love, I couldn't show compassion, but I'm wanting to apologize for the way I was now. So because if I turn around and said, well, I've got this grandmother here that's coming through with the hugest amount of love and wants to wrap her arms around you, the client in front of him is going to go, well, I can't take that, because that's not how she was. So then they will turn around and go, right, well, I was like this. And it will then be that they'll then go, well, yeah, I can take that as my grandmother. And I'll be like, and then with the message that I got was, she's wanting to apologize for how she was. She understands that you might not be able to forgive her, but she wants you to know that she has learned her lessons and that she was wrong in how she was. And she's not trying to make excuses. She's not trying to make you forgive her or anything. And the nice thing was, like I say, when this was recognized by the person sat in front of me, it also, and in a way, I think she did kind of like was able to let that go. And you felt the energy just lift and change. It was beautiful. It really was, because the grandmother was able to release or let go of that negative hold that she had had. So she had made it to the spirit world, as I call it, but she obviously still carried this emotion with her. But I could feel the emotion coming from the person sat in front of me release, but then I can also feel the emotion from the spirit release as well. So again, it's another healing process.
Leon, I'm just wondering whether that kind of situation that Minty's talking about is when that relationship and what happened with the relationship with the grandmother and the grandson wasn't actually a soul contract. So because I'm kind of like thinking if they had a soul contract to play things out, then maybe there wouldn't be the soul, once it's moved on, wouldn't have the need to apologize. I'm just wondering whether the grandmother, through her free will and not doing her own work and healing, had kind of it unnecessarily hurt or caused trauma to the grandson that wasn't in any kind of soul contract. Do you think?
Also, not everything's a soul contract. Not everything is a soul contract, because we still have free will. We still have free choice. We can choose to be an arsehole. We can choose to be nice. That doesn't mean that we've necessarily, with all our soul contracts, yes, we come back with soul contracts, but then there's also elements that aren't soul contracts. And it's just that maybe when we're alive, we're an arsehole.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that be an instant where that wasn't a soul contract, that was free will trauma, rather than in a relationship that they had, agreed to have.
Agreed to traumatize each other, therefore I have to make this right, is what you're saying, isn't it? Yeah, quite.
Sorry, what was you going to say?
I was going to say, for the newbie, you're talking about soul contracts, and I'm like,
sorry.
What's that?
Well, you might like to be interested to see Soul Chats with me and Leon. Available on YouTube.
Brilliant. Okay.
Right, just a big plug, yeah.
The general gist of a soul contract are that we want, but before we come back, we make a series of choices of what we would like to experience. Now, as a soul, we will probably choose sometimes as a soul, we'll choose some of the horriblest experiences that we want to come back and experience.
The last one did a number on me then.
So when we come back, we can then sometimes be like, oh, bugger.
I've changed my mind.
Yeah, it's like, bugger this. I didn't want that. Of course, I do think it's going to be like this. And then other ones, it's not all bad, though. Don't get right. It's not all bad. Soul contracts can also be positive as well, that we wanted to experience a positive experience. So, for example, your soul contract could be that you decided to come back as a woman because you wanted to experience what it was like to be a woman from when you was a bloke in a past life, or vice versa.
I still have dreams when I'm a bloke. I think I was a right one.
I don't know what you mean.
You haven't learned then.
I think being female is definitely on the kind of paying back kind of stuff.
But no, that's basically what the soul contract is. It's about you have made a series of choices or decisions on what you want to experience, and also who you want to experience with.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
So we're going on to realms of like soulmates, twin flames, soul family, and it's a whole expanded area again as well. But also it can be with, so when you come back here, not necessarily, you might not reckon. So, okay, I'm going to go for a real extreme, harsh one here, okay? Yeah. And it might be that you have made a soul contract. Now, this is going to be really out there, and please don't shoot me with what I'm about to say.
Yourselves.
You might have decided to come back to experience what it was like being killed by someone else.
Yeah.
But you've had an agreement
like this right now. Yeah.
But you've had an agreement with your perpetrator on a soul level that you want to experience this, they want to experience doing it. Now, this is where a real dark side of the soul contract can come into it, that you experience that. But also at the same time, like I say, you can come back here, and at the time of it happening, you might go, bugger this, and you start fighting, and you might actually get away from it, but then that's like a break or a release in the contract.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
But like I say,
you can break a contract? You can break a soul contract?
I personally think you can.
Yeah.
Because you have your
So you
will,
just
because your free will overpowers your soul contract. Our free will is far, far stronger. So then that breaks the soul contract. That's my personal belief. You know.
I agree.
But having said that, your soul is still going, well, I want to experience A, B, and C. So
then you come back again.
yeah.
In a different way.
Experience, we're talking about shadow work and say trauma that someone might go through in childhood. For the soul that chose that life and saw all the probabilities of maybe a lack of love and lack of care as a child, which would set them on this road of difficulty, for that soul, that will be relevant to their past lives of what they're trying to learn. So that would be classed as a soul contract. So the people that are going to be playing these roles, maybe the perpetrators, most likely there's been an agreement pre-birth to do this, so that they can challenge each other and bring themselves to this point where they face these big challenges that from a human perspective are like, no way I do this to myself. But from a soul's perspective, it's like, well, yeah, but because I've done this so many times through so many lives and I keep getting it wrong, this time I know it's going to be a big blowout, but this time I'm going to get it because it's going to really teach me what I want to learn, which I wasn't learning before.
You're getting very shadowy in the corner there, Leon, with
I know there's no light in the front of it. I'm realizing as it's getting darker outside, the light in front of me is broken. It's getting darker and darker as we go on.
And you've got the kind of Terminator blue light on your glasses.
I mean, also personally for me, for this lifetime, in a lot of ways, I went through quite a difficult. This isn't like a sob story or anything like that. I went through a difficult childhood. I experienced some harsh difficulties at a younger age. But in all fairness, for me to experience those is now what has helped me to do the work that I do today later on as well. So I've kind of made the soul contract before I came back to experience, you know, abandonment from family and stuff like that. But now that I'm actually getting a lot of people that come to me for readings or help in that sense, that are dealing with abandonment and that, I'm probably able to help them more because I can completely understand and get where they're coming from, having been through that experience myself.
Yeah.
And that again is another like kind of soul contract in that sense.
And the other layer to that, Minty, is that by coming that full circle and realizing that those difficulties have given you the experiences that are giving you the richness of life now, allows you to forgive and let go of those that abandoned you and those that wronged you. So it takes you get from a place of being the vulnerable, oh my God, it's people are having a go at me, to actually, no, I'm empowered and I can do this. And look what I've done so far. This is great. And it's empowering, isn't it?
It is very much empowering. And also in a way, then also I could, you know, not everybody's experience is the same, but I can turn around and say, look, there's light at the end of the tunnel. You can get through this. You can overcome this. You can do this. For me personally, I don't talk to any of my parents. Not a bad thing at all. It's very much a good thing. But I get a lot of people that come to me and go, I'm having this real battle where I don't want to talk to my parents, or even to the point where they say to me, I don't love my parents. And they're expecting me to go, like, on a society level, going, oh, well, you've got to love your family. But I'm able to go, well, actually, you know what? I totally get where you're coming from, because I don't love my parents either. And you know what? Life carries on afterwards as well. And you're able to forgive yourself for feeling that way. You're able to forgive yourself for feeling like that. Or make them explore, well, why are you feeling like this? What has chose you to come to this point? And realize that it's experiences that they've had growing up that wasn't their fault. So then that goes, well, then they've got to, hi, dude. So I just see Karen there in the corner.
I just say bye to Sydney, because she's saying she's got to go.
Oh, bye,
Bye.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It was great. Thanks so
Bye,
much.
Sydney. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Bye.
So we've been going for 2 hours. So if anybody does need to go, that's fine.
Leslie's phone died. She didn't mean to leave, but her phone battery went.
But I'm quite happy to hold the space for as long as anybody wants to stay. So
that's cool. But no, and then it's also sort of saying to them that actually this isn't your ownership to take, and that you can, the people that have treated you this wrongly, they've got to take ownership for that. It's not for you to carry. So if you are feeling so, and again, it's them releasing that guilty feeling that society teaches us. We got to love our family. Blood's thicker than water. Sorry, crock of crap. No, it's not. We make our own family.
This is a family show, Minty.
Well, I think we're all adults here. And if we're not, well, no, we're all extended children. No, but it's one of those.
Just thinking of the YouTube replay, that's all.
Yeah, that's fine. Just put a quote at the beginning. Oops.
Contain swear words. Yeah.
But no, it's like you might get born into a very loving and caring family, which is fantastic, and that's brilliant, and they do become your family. But then there are people that come to me and go, well, actually, my friends are more like my family than my family. And it's because you're creating your own family, and that's what it's about. And it's this whole thing of people get stuck with this guilt, labels, boxes, and it's like, you know what? None of that means jack. This is all for us as humans to have it easy, that we have to have labels, boxes, and everything's got to be nice, neat, and not tidy. Well, not in my case, so I'm a right bloody mess. Everything's in a mess. I have a clean pile and a dirty pile for my bloody washing. It's just all together.
Floor drape is what they call it.
Yeah, floor drape, that's the bugger. But no, but no, it's like, it's just, we can let go of these labels, we can let go of these feelings that are so deep rooted. And because I've actually experienced that myself, when I do get people come to me, and I'm getting a lot recently, and it's like, well, and it gives them hope, it gives them strength, it allows them to be empowered as well, or it makes them realize, well, okay, I'm not going to turn into a green fog or a puff of smoke because this is how I'm feeling.
I think this is a really important point to make them into, because actually I think everybody, more or less anybody here, is a therapist of some, or a practitioner of some way. So it's interesting that you pull these people, you know, these people are finding you that have got that particular issue with it, and you've, you know, so you're able to help them because of your direct experience. Now, I don't find that I draw those kind of people with those particular issues to me, and that's because I haven't, you know, I think this is how it works on a quantum vibrational level, that we all, and also, you know, this is about there is no competition, because we will all bring to us the people that, you know, that we need to see, they need to see us, we'll get, you know, so there's that trust in spirit and the universe that we will attract, if we're being authentic to who we are and our own vibration, then we will attract the people that need us, you know, and people will go to different practitioners and different therapists for different things, and often those therapists will have gone through, you know, the very thing that these people need help for. So I think that's magical. I love that about, you know.
But also, it's like when I've had clients come to me and they've sat down in front of me and I've got bugger all. I mean, nothing, zip. And I've been doing, you know, I've been working with spirit for just over 29 years now. And I literally can't get a beam out of them at all. And it's just like, oh my God, and then I start questioning, can I do what I do? And then I realise, actually, what it is, I'm not the right person to help them.
Yeah.
So then I just turn around and go, you know what, you need to go and see so-and-so, because you're going to have a far better experience with whoever it is. Whereas people are so worried going, oh no, I've got to keep this client, I can't let this one go, I've got to hold on to this one for dear life. And it's like, no, that's not what it's about. It's like, if you can't help that person, but you might know someone, and go, actually, you know what, go see Leon, because he works on a different level to me, on a different frequency to me, that you're going to really gel with, and you're going to get a far better experience. And it's about being honest.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because so if you're a spiritual practitioner and you've still got you know, lots of issues of your own wounds going on with self-doubt and self-judgment and all that kind of thing, then you're not going to have the confidence to say to somebody, I'm not the practitioner for you. You know, I'm going to I'm going to refer you to somebody else. So that's really interesting, how the practitioner needs to be healed enough to be able to be of best service to their client.
That doesn't mean that I don't brick it every single time I get a client come round for a reading, though. I'll be perfectly honest. I'll say to Mand every single time, wish me luck, because I'm still like, sorry, I'm going to swear again, but I'm absolutely shitting it because I don't want to get it wrong. I want to help those people, and I want to make, and then within, I don't know, seconds of going into it, you get in that zone, and then it just flows. But it's also, and again, I think this is the ego side coming in as well. It's remembering you can't help everybody. You're not going to mix with everybody. So when I was saying about the energy thing as well, it's only people who are relying on their ego that will go, no, I can help you, I can help you, I can help you, and keep trying to battle away and end up doing a terrible job, rather than going, I normally have like a 5 to 10 minute rule that if I can't get anything in 5 minutes, then I recommend you to someone else, because if I'm going to get some, it's going to come through in those 5 to 10 minutes, if that makes any sense at all. But it's also remembering that, and it's only because it's that energetic level, that it might just be that our energies aren't mixing, aren't working, and that will happen. I mean, I'm not saying it happens all the time, don't get me wrong. I mean, over the years, I've probably had it a dozen times or something like that, but it does happen.
Well, I had an incident this morning where that lady cancelled the appointment, and I was so relieved that she had, because I just didn't feel like I was going to be the practitioner for her. I'd already kind of tried to steer her somewhere else, and she insisted of coming to me. So I thought, oh well, okay then. But something just did not feel right, So when she cancelled this morning, I was relieved, and I thought that's kind of spirit looking after me in a way. I think it's kind of
that's your guide's intervention in a sense, and also saying that it didn't feel right. I bet you felt that in the gut rather than in the head.
Yeah, that sort of. I mean, to me, it's always heart based. So yeah. But you're right. I mean, everything is down to frequency and vibration, and we just have to read it. Once you can read frequency and vibration, it's like learning to read reading the written word. You can go into a library and read anything once you learn to read, and it's the same with energy like that. Once you know how to read subtle frequencies, the world opens up, really does. Yeah.
But also, it's all what was the word I was going to use? Bugger.
That wasn't the word.
No, it wasn't that word, but it was. Also, we don't always listen to the energy as well ourselves, even though we're readers and practitioners, and we're telling other people you need to listen.
Well, my guide said to me this morning, have like no tomatoes on your lunch. My guide said to me, say no tomatoes, but I thought it'll be fine, and they were horrible.
It does work in that way, and it's also like where I haven't listened to you. You've heard me take a booking off of someone.
You never listen to me,
and it's like, you really shouldn't have done that. And I'm just like, and I'm learning that more now, because again, it was.
I have a really good weirdo radar. I know if they're the right sort of weirdo or the wrong sort of weirdo.
But when you get, say that again, sorry.
I was going to say, I have had instances where I've been thinking, I've just been shuffling my tarot cards, and I've been thinking of something, asking a particular question, and then a card would just jump out, and I'd be like, oh, no. And then I'd shuffle again, and the same card would jump out, and I'm like, oh, shut up.
And that's exactly how it works. But it's also like so with you, Angie, you saying about your client, I've had it a few times where I've booked someone, and then I've gone about an hour going, it's come to the time of the reading, and I'm going, oh God, I wish I hadn't booked this person, because it's just I know that the energy is off, and then it's gone really weird. It's the reading hasn't gone as it normally would do. Something's gone wrong, and I'll come in and go, that was bloody hard work, and you'll be like, well, I told you.
Stephanie's put in the chat, I also believe that some people block a reading and block themselves off from giving or receiving information because they want to test a spiritual worker. I've never
they do try that.
That actually happened to me like the other day randomly, and I was on a live. And it was like a huge wall came up. And finally my guides were like, oh, the guides are coming through and we're going to speak directly in soul language, because it was the only way the message, they like really wanted this message to get through. And I couldn't. And I was like, the cards were like, nope. The person was like, nope. I'm like, what's going on? So finally they're like, we're just going to give it directly. And literally, like, I was like, okay, and stepped in and they just said whatever. And it just makes me laugh because it's so true that people really do. It's like a test or something.
They do test you.
It's so
They
interesting to me because I was like, they're gonna come through and give it to you whether you want it or not. You know?
Well, I've had it as well. Sorry,
I'm
dude.
notorious for doing that.
Scorpio's gotta prove it.
Minty, honestly, you probably received that firsthand when you read for me originally a little bit. I remember you even saying to me in the reading, like, oh, you don't like people getting too close, do you? And it's just a weird, I don't know if it's a defense mechanism, then I do it subconsciously, or it's more of a deliberate thing, but I definitely
It didn't feel deliberate. It didn't feel deliberate. It didn't feel deliberate when I did your reading. It was just an instant thing that my guys were like, this one's going to be bloody difficult. So it's more like the guys are coming through going, you don't like people getting too close and knowing the ins and outs. And I'm like, oh, okay, right then. It's their talk of saying, yeah, he's going to be bloody difficult.
Sorry.
No, you're all good.
I know your besties now.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're gnomes forever. But no, there are people that do try and test you. And the thing as well is that I've had it when I've either been at psychic fairs and stuff, and they've literally just sat down. And what really annoys me the most is the people that try and test you the most are the ones that bloody read themselves. And they do readings for other people. And then they come along and try, and you're like, don't try and test me. This isn't, I've got to keep it clean. I can't say what I'm being shown.
I think we can fill in the blanks.
Yeah, fill in the blanks. It's not a waving competition.
Yes.
But some people think it is, and it's just like, oh my god, they've got it so bloody wrong. And it's
don't worry, we get it with gong baths as well. There's definitely some gong baths that waving about.
It doesn't matter what therapy or work you do. I think you just do get that, because sadly it is. We are human, and some people are all molded by their ego, and they put themselves on these pedestals, and they start thinking that they're better than everyone else. And sooner or later, for a while, yeah, they might be riding that crest, but sadly, sooner or later, well, not sadly, but they will get brought down a peg or two eventually, because no one. This is the thing that I've always said: is no one is better or worse than anyone else. We are all equal. We just all work on different ways. And an example I always use is Mand, my beautiful wife. She's an amazing artist. I mean, she really, truly is an amazing. I can't draw a bloody stick, man. I really, really want to draw, but I can't. I mean, I can't even take a photo properly. So
that's true.
I'm doing straight away, sort of thing, But we can both have exactly the same pencil. But it just means that we both work differently with that pencil. I mean, I can't always hold it up the right end. So that's me losing battles straight away. But no, this is what I'm saying, though. People work on different levels and different areas at different strengths. And that's the thing to remember.
And when we don't feel that there's not enough to go around, then that doesn't matter. That, we then can comfortably just sort of get comfortable with our own way of working and our own vibration without feeling like we've got to compete with other people.
And again, at fairs, I've had it before. Oh well, he's done I've had it where he's obviously psychically blocking me because I've only had 4 readings and he's had 10 this day, and it's like, well, no, I've been bloody busy chatting to whoever. It's what energy you're putting out there as well. But that just shows the ego and the fear. And it's like, oh no, it's that whole thing, that vice grip. Can't let my clients go. Can't have you come and do a live on my page because you might steal my clients. Or, it's that kind of thing. Oh, I ain't adding you on this. Before, and it's just like, it just doesn't work like that.
But then if they're keeping themselves in the energy of lack, they're going to end up lacking.
Yeah, because then that's the law of attraction spinning in that way as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I'm buying all these crystals. It means the money's going to come flooding in. It's perfect.
I hope so.
Yeah, it works with gongs. It works with gongs.
Well, if not, we're going to build a house made of crystals. We're getting a collection.
But joking aside, I mean, this is really why we created the Soul Collective, isn't it? Why you two set it up, and a few of us here are admins and moderators, and because we wanted that space, because there's so much competition out there, isn't there, on Facebook, social media, where the spiritual community has been at odds and as polarized as what you'd call more the 3D world, and that really shocked and upset me last year when we started going through the lockdown and COVID crisis. It really brought everybody's shit up to the surface, didn't it? It really
did.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
Not just that, it's nice to find you guys, because there is also a lot of wrong information out there as well.
Yeah.
I've just recently gone on TikTok and I find it fascinating, and I'm still getting my head around it, but there's a hell of a lot of young people doing very dark work without having any basis or understanding of it at all, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. So for me, just kind of starting out on this spiritual journey, it's nice to have somewhere to direct my questions to, which isn't going to be a load of crap. So yeah, it's
and
very
I'm hoping as well that you feel comfortable and confident enough to ask your questions as well, because one of the things that was really prominent for me before starting this group was that if you asked a question, it'd be like you had laughed at, or that you were like, oh Christ, don't you know this already, or made to feel stupid. And that was one of the things as well, where it's like no one knows everything, because if you did, there'd be no bloody point in existing, in all fairness.
Oh God, the more you know, the more you don't know, isn't it? It's sort of like, oh God, there's another whole can of worms.
I don't want to go picking the lids off, having fun like Pringles or something. But no, it was about creating a community where one of us will hopefully have an answer or an idea for you, or someone. It's opinions, it's views, and it's having that perspective and being allowed to freely say what you think, what you feel, and how you feel as well. It's like,
without having a leader who's owning the group and saying, oh no, we don't talk about that, and closing comments and not allowing people to say what they feel, because we get enough of that in life as it is. We should be able to say what we feel and have that listened to,
and not be ridiculed or judged or criticized or I mean, someone might not agree with your opinion, and that's absolutely fine, because again, that falls back down to the free will, freedom of choice, freedom of mind thinking.
Unless you have a soul contract that means you wanted to previously be ridiculed and belittled all your life,
then you're a little bit. Well, then you get
who knows?
I came back ginger, for Christ's sake. I mean, I threw myself in that one back in the 80s as well. It was like, great, this is a great time to be ginger.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, exactly. Now everyone wants to be bloody ginger, and it's all right. So all the people that ridiculed us, now you want to be.
I'm just imagining you, when your guides were saying anything else, Mint, for this, and it's like, you know what, just put ginger on there as well, let's go for it. Sprinkling on the top.
I swear to God, it was my twin sister probably wrote that on there for me, in all fairness, because she knew she was going back and leaving me here to deal with it.
Well, you'll have to have a look at that, because it might be in a different handwriting to yours, and then you'll know that it.
I think it probably is, because it'll just be like, you can experience this one for me, or her having a laugh with me going, well, you're a bugger in the last one, so you know what, I'm going to get my own back, sort of thing. But you have got that soul contract of being ridiculed, then this isn't the group, I'm afraid.
Going back to sort of, I mean, everybody's truth changes, doesn't they? Depending on where they are on their journey, we've all got a different truth, and we all have a different perspective on it and a way of expressing it. And I think I don't take anybody's I don't take anybody's information on board if they're not the sort of people that say take what resonates and leave the rest, because I don't know it all. And if it's not your truth, then that's absolutely fine. So if somebody thinks that they know the truth and is saying this is how it should be and this is how it is, then that's a real red flag, I think. With
those are the kind of people that form religions.
Because
they need the shadow work. That's where the shadow work comes in. All the way.
Definitely say goodbye, guys. I've got to go and get my dinner. Lovely meeting you.
I have to pop off too, but he's staying on.
Thanks, Leon. Thank you.
I'm gonna go. Bye.